panel actually, and I will let the two gentlemen introduce them also. But I have personally worked with both of them, Mr. Probir and Mr. Yash, and they come with a lot of experience in their own industries. They have worked with a lot of retail brands, and they bring a lot of wealth of knowledge regarding to today's session. And I'm sure you guys will have a really good time. Just as a show of hands, how many of you are from the retail background? Come from retail experience or just dabble in the retail industry, just to understand. Okay. So I believe like more than 80-90% audience is from the retail background. I'd like to please welcome Mr. Probir, sir. Please have a seat. Yash, please, if you could join us. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing your experience, your knowledge about the retail landscape. I'll go in last in terms of introduction. If you guys could please introduce yourself for the benefit of the audience so that they could relate to you as well. I'll just pass on the mic.
I'll just share them.
Hi all, I'm Yashodeep, but everyone calls me Yash because my name is pretty difficult to spell here in this world. I work for Sony. I've been with Sony for the last 14 years now, and I take care of e-com and digital for Sony in the Middle East and Africa region.
Good evening, everybody. I think I should give you a bit of an introduction because, what it says over here, Rita soft drinks, that's not really my background. I'm an electronics, appliances guy, and I've been for many, many years. So I worked in Philips, I worked at Jumbo, I was with Al-Futtaim, I was a managing director for the electronics division over there. And of late, I worked in Egypt as well, a company over there called BTech. I ran the operations over there until recently. So that's really my background, and that's where I met Abhishek, and I have some idea about all this. So he's been tracing me, and he said, can you come and speak at this event? So I said, okay, it's fine, no problem. At the moment, I do some consulting, as well as do this particular board position with the soft drinks company, which is also a very interesting business. I have retail background, omnichannel background, and of course, I have seen technology come into the business, and I can talk about all the practical stuff that's there around it. I liked your question very much, okay? That's the kind of environment or background that I come from. I always want to finish connecting the dots, and if you're doing something, we want to see all the outcomes, okay? So that's where I am. Sorry for this longish introduction, but it gives you context about what I'm going to be saying this evening.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And he's absolutely right. Actually, I've been chasing both of them for almost a year now to come and, be part of our esteemed panel. And for your introduction also, Probir, actually, when we were discussing and then we decided what to pick, it's like, huge number of the brands that you have worked with. But that's the kind of mix that we have, right? So Probir has seen that, the evolution of this entire retail landscape over the years, and he's now part of the emerging technologies also. And for Yash, he's always been a technology enthusiast, always, up to date with the latest technologies, trying to implement for his brand, right? So a lot to learn today. I hope you guys are also excited. Quick introduction about myself. My name is Abhishek. I'm part of the WebEngage team. So we are conducting this event in partnership with Find. For the uninitiated, WebEngage is an AI-powered customer data platform that provides deep-level analytics and insights for your first-party data for your users, and then ties those analytics into our full-stack retention marketing operating system, right? In fact, there was one question, you had asked one question to Bandish, wherein you talked about how can you tie in the retention or the repeat order rate with the customer service data. So that is one of the use case that platforms like R can solve, among the many, many others, right? So we'll just begin with the session. The first question, Probir, I'll just start with you. You have seen basically the disjoint, the data silos, etc., in your experience, and then we saw during our stint at BTech also. basically combining the customers into one single platform, how important that is, and what are your learnings in creating this integrated system from these data silos, from offline data, online data, marketplaces, etc.
Okay, this is actually very interesting because I saw it live and I saw it happening. And just to give you context, what happened when I went into Egypt, the Egyptian pound used to be about 15 pounds to the dollar. By the time I left, it was 50 pounds to the dollar. So there was a huge amount of devaluation. And our dollar buying ability of any services started going down. So budgets started crashing, and there's no, everybody, all the agencies and all the people who did work for you in digital marketing, performance marketing, or whatever, did it from outside the country, okay? And they wanted to be paid in dollars, not in Egyptian pounds. So we had to work with less dollars. And that's when we saw the development of what we call as a concept of digital personas. Like somebody is going to buy a washing machine. You don't need to do, targeting of different cohorts and different segments. You can group them all into a digital persona, somebody who wants or is looking for a washing machine. And I'm just taking the simplest of examples. So you can bring that all together by tracing, using all the analytics, AI-based, etc., to come up with this digital persona of a buyer, a potential buyer for a washing machine, and then start targeting them. And from our experience, what we saw was that once we started this targeting and retargeting based on a digital persona, and the development of the digital persona happened with the help of WebEngage and our own internal digital team, I saw that with less spend than before, we were reaching many more people, we had a higher GMV and better conversion rates. And I saw it happening in front of my eyes. So I think that these kind of developments, okay, which bring redefined consumer cohorts, okay, and how you can target them is something real and is very measurable, and we saw the good results. So that is one of the big learnings that I had.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Similar experience for you also, Yash?
Yeah, so as Probir said that everything was in different silos. So here in Sony also, we had data in different silos. So we had online platform, which is called Alpha Universe, which is for photography enthusiasts. Then we have a D2C platform. Then we have a rewards app. Then we have a pro channel contacts. So there was nothing integrated into one system. There was like, if I am a member of Alpha Universe, my system didn't know if I'm a member of the D2C platform or the rewards app platform. So combining that, all those data platforms into all those digital assets into one data platform did give us the ability to target each and every individual based on the digital persona that the person has. So for example, photographer, we know that he is on Alpha Universe, he is a wildlife enthusiast, so we can target a wildlife lens to that particular person through our D2C platform. So yes, digital personas, combining it into one single platform is very necessary. And I think Abhishek and their team at WebEngage did that for us. They created a central dashboard for us, which was painstaking, but we finally did it. So I can see my customers, what they are, where they are, what they are doing into one central dashboard. And that really is really helping us a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those insights. By the way, folks, we will be having a Q&A session once we conclude these questions. So we just have a couple of topics to cover. You can just note down your questions and we will have 10 minutes of Q&A post this panel discussion. Cool. Bringing to the next point actually, so Yash, we were discussing and we have discussed this multiple times before also. Like how do you deal with the brand loyalists and the discount shoppers? I mean, I personally have bought a couple of Sony products before. I have asked you for discounts as well, but I've not used them. So you could put me in the brand loyalist category, but like how would you treat them differently in your experience?
So everyone likes to buy a product at a discounted rate. I think there is no one here who would not want a better rate. But where we differentiate ourselves as a direct-to-customer D2C platform is to give a value-add service to the brand loyalists. For example, extended warranty for certain cameras. If you buy it from the D2C platform, you get extended warranty. We have a rewards program where you get a 5% rewards, and one reward is equal to 1 AED, and you can use that reward into the next purchase. Plus early access to pre-order products. For example, right now, if is anyone a gaming enthusiast here for PlayStation and everything? So 30th anniversary edition is there in the market, but you cannot find it online because it's selective models, limited stock quantity. But then we are sending it to our gaming loyalists. That okay, this is the product, 30th anniversary Pro edition, 30th anniversary PS5 edition, you want to buy, you can register your interest and then so that is a value add that we can give. Any people are price conscious, but then what you get on other platforms, you may get additional benefits when you're buying it from a brand. And that's how we build a brand loyalty. There are a lot of consumers who want to buy from us directly rather than go to any marketplace or any other retailer.
Got it. And Probir sir, same question to you. Also, if you could highlight, since you have worked across different geographies, right? And like apart from the dealing of loyal customers and the discount shoppers separately, do you notice these trends different in like UAE would be different versus Egypt would be different? If you could shed some light on that.
Okay, I'll answer the second part of your question first. Actually, there's no difference. There's a very clear pattern. Okay, yeah, people are always looking for a good deal. But when you're an omni-channel retailer, and the only way you can run a profitable business is actually stick to your positioning. Okay, so you should have a core value proposition. And for example, if you look at yourself as an omni-channel retailer, at least in electronics, appliances, mobile, IT, etc., this kind of space, then you talk about selection, you talk about best of the best, you talk about explainers, you talk about all these kind of things which are there, and work on what we call as a consumer journey, a buying experience, okay, with a high level of satisfaction. And start bringing price and everything else into a kind of a secondary consideration. However, there are moments in time and during the year when price becomes the primary consideration, which is like Black Friday or a Mother's Day or some defined sales period like a summer carnival or something like that. So at that point in time, you bring price into as a primary consideration through a perception mechanism. So in a product range, there is something called KVI, foreground and background. Okay, that's how you manage your whole lineup. And it does not necessarily coincide with your long tail, but background would be long tail, yeah, the part of your long tail as an omni-channel retailer. Now within this, KVIs are key value indicators. These are products that typically are about 60% of your sales. They have high saliency, they're seen products, they're known products. An iPhone would be a KVI and things like that. You have to pick a few SKUs from the KVI zone and price match or have a delta which is acceptable from your platform. So 2-3% variation, it's fine, it's okay. In the background or in the foreground items, you can even go up to about 5%, which is the premium of your platform. And the background, it's even higher. So this is how you run your pricing strategy, and this is how you satisfy everybody, and then you satisfy the people who have different priorities of their consideration. And we also know by now that price is just not everything, okay? Because people buy into a service and an experience not for the moment of buying, because there's something called buyer remorse. And I think everybody knows what buyer remorse is. I bought something, and why the heck did I buy this cheapy, okay? And I want to buy good quality stuff. So you find people gravitating towards better brands, better products, and better value. If your communication is towards that, you will be able to have a balanced proposition in the market. And that's how you can manage your life. Otherwise, it's a bloodbath, okay?
Actually, just continuing on that last point also, right? I mean, when you like quality over everything else. So coming back to Yash, like from a Sony's perspective, like there was one point that Probir also mentioned about having promotional offers during, or according to the seasonality, right? So Black Friday, etc. But is that the same principle that Sony also believes in? Because I mean, as per my experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there are very few occasions where Sony would actually provide those discounts, apart from the, you know, the 5% loyalty one that you mentioned. So is that similar for Sony, or the principle of thinking is different?
So, as Probir San mentioned, that you brands have to keep a certain level. You cannot go down on pricing and just offer anything. But like Black Friday, or let's say Prime Day, or all those are, we detach to that journey because everything is hyped up in the market. But then we don't go so aggressive on the pricing because we have to maintain a certain kind of a level in the market. And the pricing which is offered by during Black Friday or whatever seasonal campaigns that is being run by others, that's their decisions. Like, we cannot be influenced by the other players in the market. So, but what we do is,
that could be the difference, I believe, between like a online marketplace or, you know, a retail brand offering, you know, multiple consumer electronics, etc., versus like, you know, your brand specific, and there is a certain image, or rather a brand image that you need to maintain.
but then what we do is we add a value add to the product. Like I said, a special bundle. You buy a soundbar and get a subwoofer at a discounted rate. So we are not dropping the price, but we are giving a special kind of a package deal to the consumer that if you want to buy this, you can buy this as well at a special price. So
Got it.
going aggressive on the pricing, we don't
Got
do
it. Yeah. That's just for the benefit of the larger audience. Wanted to highlight, you know, probably the difference. Moving on to our third question. So what are some emerging consumer behaviors, Probir sir, that you are seeing? And how do you see consumers engaging with your brand communications in this day and age?
Okay, so this is an interesting question. Definitely, there are two different types of behaviors, offline and online. Okay, let's talk about the online experience first. So we used to describe the online experience as a two-dimensional experience, just a product, price, lots of information, and few things have started coming up now, like chatbots. By the way, according to me, chatbots are the most irritating, useless, resentment-creating, frustrating things. Okay, you go and chat with the guy up to a point in time, sorry, I can't help you anymore, all right? And then you go mad, you go nuts, say, I want to talk to a human. So please bring that AI avatar fast, okay? Anyway, but my experience with Noon has been good, always. Yeah.
Sigh of relief.
All right. So just coming back to this, I think online is trying to do a lot of things to, you know, improve the customer journey and the customer experience. And as you know, people do something called as showrooming. So they go to offline retail, they see the product over there, and then eventually look for the best possible deal and they buy. Yeah, but that used to be there when there was a lot of price disparity. Then they started discovering a few things, that a lot of products are not there online, and you don't have those choices of the best products, because the wider choice, the better added value products are normally found offline. Anyway, now, of course, everybody's learned the tricks of the game. There is something, it's no longer, it used to be in the old days, good, better, best. Here are your choices, good, better, best, and you trade up your life. And what does it change to now? Best of the best. So we got the best of the best in televisions, we got the best of the best in mobile, we got the best of the best of the best. And you position them like that. But you start telling a story to the consumer. And what you start seeing online is that ratings and reviews, which is a very important factor in improving conversion rates. We ran a study in our channel with Amplitude, and we found that conversion rates went up as we improved ratings and reviews online, okay, and very specifically. A single factor which has increased conversion rates online has been good quality ratings and reviews. So consumers want to know what other consumers said, and they also want to look at the stars. And that they will dive into that SKU. And if they see anything negative, khalas, it's out of the list. All right? But coming back to, so this found its way into offline as well. So every product was displayed with a rating and review. Then QR codes arrived into offline, where you can pick up information, you can compare, you can do everything else. So there has been a lot of cross-pollination between the two channels. And recently I was in Dubai, Hills Mall. Today I was there. And I saw some store over there, 6th Street, sixthstreet.com.
6th Street, yes.
Yeah, and I said, what is this store? And I went inside and I saw a lot of screens. And I said, you're supposed to go and sit in front of a screen and then you do tap, 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 and the guy will bring you the stuff and you can look at it and you can, I said, this is a very different kind of shopping experience. A shopper who goes inside, he wants to, not sit. He wants to look here, he wants to look there, he wants to smell, he wants to feel, he wants to touch. Maybe he wants to talk. He wants a store to talk to him without being spoken to. Okay? All these it's a very different journey. And therefore, shopping is an experience. And online is, of course, convenience and comparison. So different aspects everywhere, but as we know, online has been growing. I think it's, when I last checked, I believe in our category of electronics and appliances, particularly the mobile category, laptops and so on and so forth, the ratio has almost gone to about 25 to 30% of the market. Okay, higher involvement products are still offline, but omnichannel, and you buy anywhere, deliver anywhere, pick up anywhere and all that. So there's been a lot of proliferation, and I think there's only one message: embrace everything in the interest of the consumer, but without losing your shirt. Okay? That's what
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. About the ratings and reviews part also, like I wouldn't even consider a product if it is like, below 4 stars. So absolutely could relate with that. Any thoughts on this point, Yash?
So as again Probir mentioned about showrooming, there was also a concept of web rooming earlier. So people used to look at the products on the web and then go to the showroom and buy. So as digital marketeers, 2015 or 16, we started this concept of providing A+ content, which is now there for Amazon and all, to our retail partners. So we started giving them rich content syndication onto their e-commerce platforms, etc. Because we knew that people are researching online, but finally they are going and buying it offline because they want to physically hold the product, see the product, especially in consumer electronics, especially in televisions and all. 2020, because all the showrooms were shut because of COVID and all, the online channel just evolved. Like everyone said that they're gonna work. I was working 16 hours a day during that time because it was just skyrocket. Then came the price comparison things on. People were going to the showroom, checking the pricing and buying it online. But in this day and age, every consumer wants to only see the content which they want to see, right? So you have to, brands or anyone has to tailor make their segments in such a way that you are only sending the content to that person by email or by, let's say, social posts or anything. And they would then consume. They would not consume any content that you are providing to them. So choosing the right content to the right segment is very necessary for any brand's communication strategy to attract the consumer either to the showroom or to the online platform. And because we just engaged with the CDP last year, and we have been creating those segments and communicating with them, and we have seen an uplift. We have straight away seen an uplift in our online sales as well as offline sales as well. It's not, I'm not only talking about online, but Dubai Mall store has seen an uplift because people have seen the emailers and they've gone to the store and bought the products.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. No, segmentation, hyper-personalization, these are some things we stress on like an absolute must. I mean, it's not even a requirement, like, good to have. It's a must have in this day and age. Which brings me to our closing notes. in one or two sentences, we could just wrap it up and then we'll open the days to the audience. So if I have to ask you, in 2025, Probir sir, what do you think the retail industry, what year or what future emerging trends do you see in the retail industry?
Okay, so I'll use one word which was used long back, but actually has to be implemented, and that's curation. So you need to curate your comms, you need to curate your offers, you need to go to a product lineup which is driven by ratings and reviews and things like that. And you have to make your customer journeys comfortable. Customer service is extremely important. And those experiences are the ones which will lead you to have something, a new metric, a new major OKR for all companies is customer lifetime value. Everybody talks CLV. So retention is so important. Yeah, and every engagement has to be tracked, and you have to track all parts of that engagement. So you have to stay with that customer. You have to follow. These are my views.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. Same question for you, Yash. What do you think the retail industry will look like in 2025?
So we say that 20% of the customer gives us 80% of the revenues. So we only want to target those 20% customers. Because as again, Probir said, because he has years of experience in the electronics industry, you need to have a fan and target that fan, follow him through the entire customer journey and create lifetime value for the brand. If you are not able to target that segment, if you're not able to target your active users, then you cannot do anything, because retaining your customer is the most important thing in this world, in this competition, and with other brands throwing things left, right, and center.
Got it. No, thank you so much, guys, for coming and spending this time. It's always been an enriching experience speaking to you both. I hope it was the same for the audience. We'll open this session for the Q&A session. So, guys, if you guys have any questions, please raise your hands. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Probir, Professor. I'm Shant. I'm from Britannia. My question to you is the category which you're talking about. It's on canned drinks. This category, the category which we operate, which is drinks and cookies, is a very impulse-driven category. Consumer loyalty is very, very less, unlike Sony and everything, because they think about cosmetics and everything. They think there's a long loyalty. But the CLTV part, which you mentioned at the last, can you throw some light? How do we really use technology as an enabler or AI as anything from your thought angle? That because in our category, we see that they may buy Britannia, they may go to Locker, they may also shift to McVitie's as a category. So we want to see that how this can be really a CLTV which from a consumer to build year on year for us. We are facing that as a gap. Any thoughts on that?
And with that, we're selling huge volumes in Saudi Arabia, and of course, it's also started anyway. So I think the real story, the use of whatever technology or insight, however you get it, is to find out if your product is successful. It always starts there. Nothing changed, okay? You need to be selling something right. You need to be offering the consumer something that he or she will accept. So it starts from there. And I think a lot of consumer research is required, particularly in fast-moving consumer products, as to what works and appeals and what is the value that is represented by the price of that product. Once you hit those two magical numbers, the rest is okay. Then it's a matter of distribution and proliferation and some performance marketing and awareness and so on and so forth. But people like it, they will continue to have it. That's my answer. I don't know if I did satisfy you.
Thank you. I believe Bandish had one. Yeah.
So my question is for the consumer electronics industry, because it's common for the both of you. My experience of buying any consumer electronics. Firstly, I and for most of the customers, it is utility driven and feature driven and not looks driven, or that's what I would like to believe, because I mean, personally for me, it's utility driven. Like if a certain product has more features than the other that I require, I would probably go for that. Of course, secondary is price as well, but I would assume that you would have products in similar price ranges, like all brands would have that, right? Based on your positioning. And a lot of marketing now is UGC, like user generated content driven. So be it influencers, like reviews, ratings, and stuff like that, right? Now, why the industry has become UGC driven is because it is honest, right? If you're publishing A+ content, you're only going to write good things, right? I wouldn't believe that, right? While someone, ordinary person like any influencer or whoever is talking about it, I would believe that and buy it, right? Now my question is, and I just checked Sony as well, right? The website. Like why, like if there's an option to talk to a honest, again I'll go to AI, but honest AI chatbot or a voice bot, and this, by the way, Tesla has done that already, where I can just ask just questions like, how does Sony, like PS5 rate against Xbox, and give an honest answer, right? And honesty comes from talking even bad about yourself, right? If you're only talking good, I mean, I'm discounting that, right? So, and I feel that's where marketing is moving towards, like honest marketing, right? When do you think, big brands, and it's a difficult move, I understand, but do you think that's where the industry is going, and would bigger players like Sony, adopt that?
See,
I just want to take one part of it. Okay? I have a story to tell you. You like stories?
Yes.
Okay. So many years ago, because I worked on Sony, and I worked on Sony for what? From 2001 to 2007 and 2011 to 2013. These are my, and of course after that as well. But I saw how Sony changed. So there was a time when we used to have CRT television, the one with the picture tube. At that time, Sony had a technology called Trinitron. Okay? This technology, by sheer technological superiority, was better than anything else in the market, because the picture came through the slits and everybody else had a honeycomb. So Sony's picture was better. Anybody saw Sony TV, they would see the picture was better. You didn't have to say anything. Okay? The difference was so stark. And Sony was, if I may say so with your permission, arrogantly taking its 15-20% premium on the market. And our salespeople were trained, coincidentally, to go and tell people, buy it, doesn't matter. You're going to have this TV for the next 5 years. The only difference is 2 dirhams per day. For this good picture quality, take it home. That's how it used to be sold. Okay, that's how you sell premium in those days. Then that disappeared. What happened? Everything became LED, LCD, and so on and so forth. And today with LED, there's no differentiation. And Sony has to claim differentiation based on circuitry. Okay, so-called picture engine and so on and so forth. Still, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased, I still think Sony TVs are the best. But you need consumers to say this to you today. In those days, the manufacturer could pump that content out. But today, it's not possible. And if you go back and draw a parallel, and you talk about utility features and so on and so forth, okay? A lot of people want to have iPhones. If everybody could afford an iPhone, they would take iPhone has the highest value market share in the mobile market, and only 20% of the volume share. People want iPhones, they can't afford it, okay? And Samsung has more features than the iPhone, but there is something about the iPhone which is, just gelling with everybody. And it is, and we did research on this. You know what is the single most reason why people want to buy iPhones? Security. It's not hackable. And there in a Samsung phone, also they will claim there is knock security and everything else, but there is that fear of the Android somewhere, okay? But iPhone is iPhone because of security, and it's nothing to do with the looks. And this is not a very tangible, overt feature. Nobody really talks about it. but largely people have come to this conclusion that I'm safe with my iPhone. Even if I lose my iPhone, nobody will get into my life. Okay? Sorry, I made that intervention. Please tell your Sony story. I love Sony still.
So, to answer your question, we also generate a lot of UGC content. Our social team generates, but whenever we give out televisions or any product to the influencers, our pitch is the same. Give us honest opinion. You don't have to create an advert. Give us an honest opinion, and we'll publish that as it is. Or you publish it as it is. We are not going to intervene into changing the narrative or anything. So we have always done that, and especially for our cameras, because cameras, the professional series camera, the alpha series cameras, they are sold based on the UGC content. So photographers, they create a narrative like how the Sony cameras are better, but they also give the negatives to it, because each and every product cannot have all positives. It has to have a positive and negative. In terms of your question about the chatbot or honest chatbot, to be precise, we are thinking of deploying customer service chatbots on our D2C platforms in FY25. So we will soon start the process for that, because we've been receiving a lot of consumer queries and our call center is not able to handle the pricing, etc., etc. But point taken, we will be honest in our in our approach as well.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question, right? Or it's okay, guys?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll take two more questions. I think there's one over there and one here. Yeah,
I think we can continue while the networking is going on, right?
that's fine. Okay, one question, that's okay for everyone. Just one more question, that's fine.
Sorry, who was it from?
I think he raised his hand first.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sandeep from Hansa Research, and I was so happy to hear Probir say that you want the customer to say what is right for them, and therefore it sells, and absolutely so. But what I didn't hear Yashodeep San say that, because when you mentioned in the discount versus loyalty part that you created, yes, there's 80-20 and stuff like that and so on, and you did give them value on the basis of what you thought. So I want to understand, do you use research at all, or is it a set of people sitting out there and saying, ye de dete hain, let's give this, maybe they like that. I just want to understand, because from the FMCG perspective, definitely research, and agree with you, I'm a research person and I love you for that. But I want to understand from the durables perspective, what happens there? Is it just a coin toss, or you go to the AI and say, let's use this one? Or is there a logical thinking, a logical intake from the customer to say that this is more important and this will give more value? So how do you look at that?
So I'll tell you a story again. So like Probir-san said a story. So cameras, right? So when we started Alpha cameras, Nikon was a very big player, Canon was a very big player. Slowly and steadily we started talking to the photographers and then developing the product. And now it is overtaken all the Nikons and Canons, and photographers are changing the camera gear. I think here also the photographers are using Sony. We are recording on the Sony, they are taking close shots, and there is a Canon. Fair enough. So when we started selling cameras, we started asking questions to the photographer. Okay, we have sold you this camera body. What do you want from us? How can we, what kind of service, after sales service do you want from us so that you are happy and you then upgrade to a Sony and don't change over to this? So what they said, that the pain point that everyone has, every photographer has, is the lens cleaning service. Whenever they go for outdoor shoot, there's dust, there is everything. So we started giving free lens cleaning services to whoever is buying from our Dubai Mall store and the Mall of Emirates store, and now from our direct commerce platform. Similarly for audio products, whenever we launch a new product in the market, and for television, we do house visits. to the customers and ask them. We've been doing that for a very long time, if you remember, so that since the Trinitron time, we do house visits and ask them, what is it, what more features you want, so that the next product can be developed accordingly. So yes, there is a research and there is feedback mechanism taken from the customer, and then we try to evolve our product and the offering to the consumer. Coming back to the conference room meeting style, अच्छा चलो ये भी दे देते हैं, वो भी होता है. I'll be honest. ये नहीं बोल रहा नहीं होता, but that also happens, that we decide sitting in the conference room that let's give a 5% discount, or let's do a double up reward points during this period and all. But that is the what we say, that it's a value added service that we are giving to the customer so that he can claim that cashback in the next purchase. But yes, product based feedback we do take from the consumers. We do research as well. So for the next product development, and we take the feedback very seriously with the customers. I've received a lot of feedback on the delivery part. We have our delivery partners DHL here in UAE, and we pulled them up saying that, what are you doing? So we do that.
Awesome. Guys, a quick round of applause for both our esteemed panelists. Thank you.